hearings and regular city council meeting for Tuesday, September 12th. Thank you all so much for being here. We have a packed house for various reasons. Just glad to have you here. Start us off, Councilwoman Mack, if you would lead us in the invocation, we'll follow that by the pledge of allegiance.
Most holy and everlasting Father, thou art God and God alone. Father, we thank you for this day, and we thank you that you are our Heavenly Father. Father, it is in you that we live and move and have our being. Father, we pray now for your presence to come in among us, dwell among us, while we, your faithful stewards of the city of Hartsville, come to the business of this city. Father, we ask you for your divine protection. Father, we ask you that you keep us all in your care. Lord, go to all the world and deliver whatever needs to be done. Father, we pray for the territory and the region of Hartsville. We ask you now, Lord, you see what's going on. You have precision. Where there's bird's eye view, we got God's eye view. So we thank you now, God, and we count these things done because we abide by your word. Now, Father, we ask you to come into this meeting, lead us and guide us, and let us do what is pleasing in your sight for all the citizens of this city of Hartsville. Every section, every service, and in every situation. And these and all the rest we ask in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ, we do pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I ask you, please, Mayor, I need to do something for this one James Dawson.
Okay.
I'm asking that we would observe a moment of silence for former council member Wanda James Dawson, who lost her father-in-law last week. So you would bow your heads, please. Thank you.
And now, if y'all can read along with you'd like to read along with us with the civility pledge.
I pledge to build a stronger and more prosperous community by advocating for civil engagement, respecting others and their viewpoints,
And finding solutions for the betterment of our city.
Thank you. I would hear a motion to waive the reading of and approve the meetings of the August 8th, 2023 regular city council meeting. Got a motion and a second. All those in favor of waiving the reading and approving the minutes of this indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. All right, let's start us off with proclamations. Have a very special one first. Mr. Michael, fire department, and whoever else would like to please come forward. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you, and it's my honor to present to you today this proclamation. And I'll tell you what it's about. Whereas Michael Webb has served the city of Hartsville in the fire service for 50 years, spanning from September 6, 73 through September 6, 23. And whereas Michael is a third-generation firefighter with the Hartsville Fire Department, as his grandfather and father served as volunteers for the city of Hartsville Fire Department. And whereas during these 50 years, he has faithfully served as a volunteer firefighter and contributed to the health, safety, and comfort of the Hartsville community. And whereas the city of Hartsville wishes to recognize his dedication of 50 years of service and express sincere appreciation for his unwavering dedication and service, now therefore I, Casey Hancock, Mayor of the city of Hartsville, South Carolina, hereby proclaim proudly September 12th, 2023 is Michael Webb Day. It's my pleasure. Michael, on
behalf of the Hartsville Fire Department and the City of Hartsville, we'd like to give you a service award for 50 years of outstanding service and dedication to the citizens of the City of Hartsville, and thank you for your hard work and dedication. It's a pleasure. And I'd like to say, I hope we get some more firemen that come into the service that'll stay 50 years. So very, very distinct honor to be able to serve 50 years for the City of Hartsville. Thank you again. Thank your grandfather and your father for bringing you into the service. Thank you, sir. One more. All the firemen this day one more time. Mr. Webb. Fist bump.
Come and give us all this.
Thank you, please, sir.
Thank you, sir. And I have another here for the fire, another proclamation here for our fire service. Whereas the United States Congress and the President of the United States have traditionally designated the first Sunday of October as the day of annual National Fallen Firefighters Memorial Service, a day to honor firefighters and emergency services personnel who have sacrificed their lives to save others. And whereas firefighters and emergency services personnel play an essential role in the protection of lives and property in our local community, an average of 80 firefighters courageously makes the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty each year. And whereas it is of major importance that we increase our efforts to reduce deaths, injuries, and property losses from fire. And whereas on October 16, 2001, President George W. Bush approved legislation requiring the American flag to be lowered to half-staff in all federal buildings and to include the U.S. Capitol and the White House, as well as buildings in our local community, to memorialize fallen firefighters. Now therefore I, Casey Hancock, Mayor of the City of Hartsville in the state of South Carolina, do hereby proclaim April 8th through April 9th of this year as Fallen Firefighters Memorial Days, and October 8th through 14th as National Fire Prevention Week. And pursuant to the legislation signed into law by President George W. Bush in 2001, all flags are to be flown at half-staff in all city government buildings on October 8th through October 9th, and urge all citizens to observe the week of October 8th through the 14th as National Fire Prevention Week in recognition of the patriotic service and dedicated efforts of our firefighters and emergency service personnel in our city. And since the fire department manages the well-being of our flags and takes them up and down as needed, I know that you will make sure that that is taken care of. You want to come on and see the group photo with this? Good job. Have a proclamation for our libraries. Whereas the library plays a vital role in the educational, business, recreational, and social lives of Hartsville citizens by creating welcoming and inclusive spaces for people of all ages and backgrounds to learn and come together. And whereas the library contributes to the quality of life in Hartsville by offering citizens the opportunity to explore diverse ideas, discover insights and inspiration, and imagine and create new worlds through a rich and inclusive collection of resources, programs, and services. And whereas the library is essential to our democracy because it helps us ensure citizens have access to the information and opportunities for lifelong learning regardless of age, education, ethnicity, gender, language, income, physical limitations, or geographic barriers. And whereas a library card from our Darlington County Library may seem insignificant to some, we believe it represents something that is fundamental to our country: free and equal access to opportunities for all. So now therefore I, Casey Hancock, Mayor of the City of Hartsville, do hereby proclaim the month of September 2023 as Library Card Sign-Up Month, and encourage Hartsville residents to visit your local library and the other ones in Darlington County too as well, to observe Card Sign-Up Month, and encourage parents, educators, community leaders, and all citizens to work to have every student in Darlington County signed up with a library card. But not just the students, you too. I was just telling Jimmy earlier, I think it's my third library card I got about 3 weeks ago. I had one when I was a kid. Then that was when you still had the index cards you look through. And then I had one around high school, college, and now I just went back and I'm on my number third one. They told me it was cheaper to get a new card than order a replacement, so I just did that. It's my pleasure to present this to you. Thank you for being here tonight. If you have any comment, you're welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. We've always tried to be a very welcoming and open facility for Hartsville. And so what you all have to know, about 55% of the library's business is done through Hartsville. So it is a major portion of our library system. And what our goal is to make the library such a place, when you go somewhere and you see someone else's library, you can say, my library in Hartsville is as good or better than what you're seeing. Or you bring somebody into the community and you show them the library, and you can say, they will say to you, your library is as good or better than mine back home. That's our goal, is to do that for you. So thank you very much for the proclamation.
And another thing about the Hartsville Library, being it was 3 weeks ago, I noticed when I walked in how good the air conditioning worked. That makes for a very nice place to go chill and look at the day's paper or whatever you need to do.
Well, folks, I'm from northeastern Kentucky, so it doesn't quite get as hot or as long. And coming down here, I learned from May through September, it gets warmer. I think I'm now acclimated to it. It doesn't bother me at all.
Well, I'm not acclimated.
But the one thing I told everyone coming down here that I'm happy about is I don't need to own a snow shovel. That's a great thing for me.
Well, before you leave, let's get a photo real quick.
Okay.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Let's see. Up next, Direct Support Professionals Week. Thank you for being here tonight. Receive this, Casey Hancock, this pleasure. Whereas direct support professionals are integral to the physical, mental, and emotional well-being of all individuals with intellectual, developmental, and other disabilities, regardless of their age. And whereas a direct support professional assists an individual with disabilities daily with the most intimate needs and provides a broad range of support for preparing meals and medications, to personal care, to transporting clients to school, work, and other activities. And whereas the participation of direct support professionals in medical care planning is critical to the successful management of medical events, post-acute care, and long-term support and services. And whereas direct support professionals have worked tirelessly to support individuals with disabilities, and their dedication will continue to make our community an inclusive and safe place for all. Now therefore I, Casey Hancock, Mayor of the City of Hartsville, the State of South Carolina, do hereby proclaim the week of September 10th through 16th of 2023 as Direct Support Professionals Week, and encourage all citizens to recognize and appreciate the dedication and contribution these providers make to enhance the lives of their clients. It's my pleasure to present this to you tonight. If you'd like to comment, please do. All right, well, thank you. Well, let's take a picture for the paper, sir. If you don't mind, come back over. Do the handshake pose. All right.
There you go.
Awesome, thanks again.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to know that Mr. McCarlin here is the son of former mayor, David.
Mention that to me. It's a pleasure to have you. Yeah, absolutely, thank you. One more, National Voter Registration Month. Do we have anyone here from the county office for this? Well, I'll make it quick then. Just say to you to make sure your registered voter registration is correct. If you have children or family members who may be about that age to register, please encourage them to vote because we have an election this year. Isn't that right, Mr. Caldwell? You're not opposed. Yeah.
Can't have election conversation at council meeting.
All right, well, it's important. Make sure you register to vote. There's not a lot of voters in Hartsville. I know there are some candidates here. Y'all understand very well how important each and every voter is, especially in a town like ours. If you wouldn't mind getting that ribbons to them, please. And that wraps us up.
Just here, so y'all on fire.
All right, now that brings us to public comment. I believe we have one signed up, Mr. Weber. If you would come forward, please state your name and address for the record, and keep your comments to 2 to 3 minutes, please.
All right. Good evening, my name is Craig Weber and I live at 205 Greenwood Avenue here in Hartsville. I wrote down my comments so I can stay within the 2 minutes. I'm here today to appeal at council that you ask city staff to review the checklists and procedures relating to new business license, permits, and building inspections for new businesses. The city manager and I have spoken previously about this, and I know that he's working on it, but I wanted to see. I wanted to see that it was made part of official record. I believe we should be doing everything we can to remove barriers for entrepreneurs and new small business owners here in Hartsville. We need to streamline the process, providing potential businesses with a straightforward list of what will be required and in what order, to make it as easy as possible for new businesses to navigate the processes to get up and running. I've spoken to several business owners and understand there is some frustration around these processes currently. Of course, I want to recognize all of the hardworking individuals in these city departments, as I have always been welcomed and found everyone to be helpful in my interactions. However, I believe it will be helpful for council to see what is needed for folks that are starting a new business here in a clear and concise format, so that you all can ensure there are no unnecessary barriers or areas that can be improved to encourage small business growth in Hartsville. I think this will be a great way to understand the communication flow between city departments that interact within these processes, so there are no unnecessary delays in getting business owners approved and up and running as quickly and safely as possible. It will also help council to understand the other related costs not charged by the city, but related to requirements at the city and state level. So the entire cost burden for new businesses is clear when deciding on business license fees. I think this is a great first step. I think a great first step would be to have an anonymous survey sent out to new business licenses and permits in the last year and solicit feedback. So that's all I have. I sincerely appreciate your time this evening, and thank you all to your service on council, to the city residents of Hartsville. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for caring and paying attention. I think we've done a lot over the last 5 years to streamline, but there's always room for improvement. I think you identified a couple of wrinkles that we may be able to iron out and be even better at it. So thank you very much. And that brings us to you, Mr. Manager.
We are gonna be trying to condense a work session into council meetings, so you guys signed up for 2 meetings tonight. Sorry about that. But I will make it a bridge version. But I did wanna, we wanted to move up one of the items
Yes, please.
from House of Vote, because we do have a guest here to speak about it. So, Mayor, I'll let you kind of take the role here.
Yeah.
House of Vote, we move it up to the front.
Great. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have Mr. Brian Bragg here tonight, a man of many hats, one of which is as Executive Director to the House of Hope of the PD, which is headquartered in Florence. And he came to me a number of months ago with an opportunity for a way that we may be able to equip Hartsville with an emergency shelter to provide services for our citizens during the worst of times. That was, during my campaign, one of the most common things I heard is that we need a shelter in Hartsville to take care of our people. So if you wouldn't mind briefly telling us about the opportunity, a little bit about House of Hope, and what we're looking to possibly do here.
Certainly, thanks so much. Also a member of City Council in Florence, so I understand, all the elements that go with this type of project. As you'll see, on this first slide, House of Hope, we are House of Hope of the PD, so we serve the whole PD area. We do that, we have an emergency shelter, we have a long-term men's facility called the Life Recovery Program. We have 24 tiny homes, called Hope Village for men, for women and children. And we also have an addictions recovery center called the Ark. And so these facilities are available to anyone in the PD area. We serve over 2,000 people per year, from Hartsville, Marion, Mullins, Lake City, Dillon, the whole PD area, but also throughout the state and the country with a lot of transient people coming up and down 95. One of the areas that we see the most need within our region that we have trouble facilitating is the need for emergency shelter in the other municipalities, in Hartsville, in Darlington, and Lake City. That's one situation where when we have a storm, when we have a weather event, when we have a power event, something like that, where the folks in need can't get to Florence, they can't get to the services that we provide. And so we've been looking for a way to provide that level of service in Hartsville, in Darlington, Lake City, Marion, Mullins, and we've got a unique opportunity. The first slide I wanted to show you is a facility that we're currently in the process of designing and building in Florence. It's called a community resource building. What this building would have is it would have lockers, it would have showers, it would have laundry services, a small kitchen, a large area where you could have free Wi-Fi, but most importantly, it will have case management. So when someone comes in needing these services, we can find out what the situation is that has gotten them in this crisis, and then we can transition them into one of our long-term programs that we have. We're looking to do, if you would go to the next slide. So this is a metal structure building, very, very nice aesthetically, have a little brick veneer on the bottom, you know, that it'd be metal siding with a couple of eaves at the doorways. Next slide. So appearance-wise, something that in the community, something as a city council member in Florence, and something as a citizen of Florence, and as someone throughout the whole state, represents the whole state in some other capacities, this is something that I think the community would be proud to offer. The unique opportunity, if you would go to the next slide, is that there is a hospital, Williamsburg Regional Hospital, back in 2015, due to a hurricane, was condemned. It basically flooded from the top down. And so while it was condemned, FEMA came in and built this temporary hospital that you see on this slide. This hospital was built with it's called Johnson Portable Construction. Basically, it's like a commercial Lego set. You have 9 individual modular units that as a temporary structure, it has a 30-year life. As a permanent structure, enclosing it with a different outer shell, it would be just like any other commercial building. So the House of Hope is in the process of purchasing this facility. Like I said, it's 9 separate units. We'll use one of the units as a temporary facility while we build the facility that I showed you previously. And the other units, we're looking to partner with other cities like Hartsville and currently Lake City to move one of these units into the city, set it up as an emergency shelter resource. So when we have these events, when we have a weather event, when we have basically a life or death kind of situation event, there will be a resource for people to go to. And then from there, generally in crisis, is when we see the opportunity where folks who may be apprehensive to get help, to get assistance, to come to Florence and then get into a program where during the state of crisis, they have to find somewhere. And during that time, we can meet them, we can meet their needs, we can meet them where they are, we can build a relationship with them, and then transition them into our long-term programming, whether it be addictions recovery, whether it be life recovery, whether it be a long-term housing solution through our Hope Village. It is a way that we could meet the need here and then get them to the resources that are available to them. So this hospital we're purchasing for $250,000. It's 33,000 square feet total. One of the things about it is it can't stay where it is. It has to be moved, and there will be costs associated with that. Normally, that first building that I showed you, construction for a metal building right now is about $200 to $300 per square foot. So that first 5,000 square foot building on that slide, you're looking at $1.2 to $1.5 million. And that has been one of the issues that have made it cost prohibitive for us to move into different areas of the PD. It just simply, it's just too much. A lot of times, people will have a building and they'll want to remodel it, and the remodeling costs to make it safe. Safety, dignity, and showing the love of Christ. We are a faith-based organization, are our three founding principles, and so we want to make sure it's safe. We can purchase and move and reset up each of these units for approximately $100,000. Each unit is about 2,000 to 3,000 square feet. So in terms of scalable, in terms of just the financial savings to do that, it's very unique that we could have a building established. If you'll go to the next slide, this inside, it looks like McLeod Hospital. It looks like, Carolina Pines. It has operated DHEC approved. It is it's ADA compliant. For 7 years, Williamsburg Memorial used this hospital to service, and it met all the criteria. So it can be deconstructed, reconstructed with the same aesthetics, and it can be set up in a way where we can have showers, we can separate men and women, we can separate families. There's a lot of flexibility with this construction as well. So what we wanted to present to the mayor, to council, to the city manager, and to the community of Hartsville, is an opportunity to meet the citizens at their most critical need. Generally, we're behind the 8 ball, so to speak. We have a weather event coming in town. It's going to be in the teens 3 days in a row. I get the calls, and we try to shift around. We try to find a gymnasium. We try to find a church. We try to find somewhere to get people. We try to get transportation to Florence, and it's too difficult when the event is in the process, about to happen, happening, or after it's happened. This is a very unique opportunity. It's very, in terms of, the financial, it's very reasonable. What we would like to do is get with the assistance of the city, maybe a local private-public partnership with the citizens, maybe other nonprofits, to purchase, to set up one of these units in a place where there's access, where where it's not the front street view, but there's access to public transportation, and there's access for people to get to the facility. So if we could find a site, we could establish it, we could have some support with those first year operational costs. Then after that first year, the House of Hope would manage, run, operate, and be fully responsible for this facility. It gives us an opportunity to have a footprint in the community, but we just need the help and a bridge to get there. So that's basically our ask, our request to City Council and citizens of Hartsville. And I wanted to lay that out, but I'm sure there's several questions and can answer some now as time allows, but would make myself available in the future for any questions.
Mr. Braddock, this is not on a everyday cycle, so to speak. It's events, hurricanes.
Emergency shelter.
How about cold weather?
Cold weather. So currently in Florence, our emergency shelter, if it's under 40 degrees, we don't turn anyone away. We will open up additional beds. If it's above 100-degree heat index, then we open up as well. So if it's a cold weather event, if it's not gonna break 40 degrees during the day, we'd be open. If it's gonna summit 100-degree heat index, we would be open. If there's a hurricane coming, if there's any kind of weather event, storm event, long-term cold weather event, that's when this facility would be open. Again, we have resources in Florence. We have 24 tiny homes, we have addictions recovery, life recovery, we have an emergency shelter. We're not looking to duplicate all that here, but we have the staff, we have a staff of 68 individuals that are well-trained and know how to run a facility. They have a broad volunteer base, and so, it would be for those special situations.
And the staffing would come from House of Hope.
Yes, sir, from the House of Hope and would volunteer, so we would, you know, the biggest thing is that we have to have community buy-in. We don't wanna be here if the community doesn't want us here, and the way we gauge that is with volunteer support, financial support, and so we feel like if you build it, they will come. We feel like the churches, the nonprofits, the city leaders are all gonna be supportive, that we'll have the volunteer support, we'll have the supplies, the cleaning supplies, toilet paper, all those things that are needed if we have a place where people can come. So yes, sir, we would fully run it, insure it, you know, so we would, we have as much insurance as I think anyone can get. You know, so if something happens, we're on the hook.
Okay, are you open to existing, buildings that are available?
I would be if it, so things that we have to have is safety. So all these units already have sprinkler systems in them. They're already ADA compliant. You know, so an existing building is fine, but oftentimes what we find with an existing building is there's a lot of upgrades and upfitting and things that have to be done. Because generally the building that someone wants to give us or allow us to use isn't the most marketable and desirable property. But yes, sir, we're fully, if there's a building that will keep people safe and allow for people to come in, then absolutely 100%, sign it over to us.
This would be, is potentially a quick solution. It could be a phase one for, you know, when you grow out of it to another facility.
Brian, just to pray this to start with, you and I have known each other for 25, 26 years. What you have built there, when I think back of where you started when we were in Lawrenceville, it's just amazing. And you created something that didn't exist. You expanded it in a way that nobody can do. First of all, to say, this is a good opportunity. That's what we should talk about. It has merit and you make a lot of it easier to do than start from scratch.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Thank you for coming. Any other quick questions?
Yes, Mr. Bragg, I have seen, people that need shelter in emergency times. But there are also people that need assistance when there isn't an emergency. So this is something that's truly, truly needed. And I'm asking all council members, you know, we need to get on board with this right now and not let the opportunity pass away, but want to know how do, non-emergency services for people that are currently, like, we don't have a weather event or anything like that right now. People who are just in transition. They're homeless, but we don't want them to be homeless forever, so one who transition. How do we get those people into your program for us?
So currently, right now, you know, the biggest thing is transportation. If you get someone to our shelter, we have what's called a no one unsheltered, policy, and that is supported by the city. So if someone shows up at our shelter, if we're full, then we'll call all the other service providers. If they're full, then we'll, put the individual or the family into a hotel for up to 3 days, and that is reimbursed, funded by the city. $75,000 per year is allotted for that. So via PDRTA, we have a PDRTA stop right there at our shelter. So, if they could have a free bus pass to Florence, you know, I think that there's like a 6 o'clock run, maybe from Hartsville to Florence. If there's not, then, I'm sure that we can talk with Don Strickland. Don Strickland would be, more than willing. We've discussed this in several different, conversations, and we support, PDRTA, and so we give to them financially, and in return, they give us free PDRTA passes. So, you know, if we could figure out, or through your, emergency services personnel. Our other policy is if someone comes, accompanied by emergency service personnel. It doesn't matter, if check-in time is from 4 to 7, but if it's a Hartsville police officer, if it's Hartsville fire, emergency services, if they bring them to our shelter, we will check them in at any time. So if you can just get them to us, then we can serve. And that is.
And then they'd be able to transition to all the other services that you have available, such as like the life,
Recovery.
life recovery, the addiction services, sometimes mental illness, whatever the case may be.
Correct, yeah, so
You're able
our
to
emergency,
meet every need where they are.
right, yeah, our emergency shelter is our door, we call it our doorstep program. So you come there with the clothes on your back, through case management, we will either, get you into one of our programs or connect you with another service provider. You know, if it's domestic violence, we're gonna partner with PD Coalition. If it's a situation of addiction, then, you know, through either our facilities or partnering with Circle Park. We have a new mental health behavioral hub coming to Florence pretty soon, but we work with PD Mental Health. So there, they get food, shelter, and clothing, but they also get case management. Case management is the key, so we wanna find out what the situation is and then connect them and put them on a path of independence.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again, Mr. Bryant.
Thank y'all so much, I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And thanks for bumping me up to the front, my wife appreciates that.
And I think the community service, community support is there, we just gotta make sure all those people that said so actually write a check.
That's exactly right, or that building.
Yeah.
Tell me the address, I'll go check it out.
Yeah. Thanks again.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
And just the other things with that is the main thing we're looking for now is sports location. And then what we're gonna talk about next is what we would recommend for funding, should we look at that. So that's the only things we look at for that.
We need to be mindful though to have a community town hall with those that express interest. Like you said, bring them to the front, not the tail. Cause they may already have property in mind before we get discovering things. Let's talk to those that brought it to us and then go from there.
Very good point.
So if council is interested in that, then that's something that we will start moving towards. And I'll check in with you guys and if we take formal action on it, we will.
Okay.
Okay. Next is the American Rescue Plan Act monies. I noticed I just turned up. Thank you. But you guys should have in front of you, which is a spreadsheet of all the monies that have been spent and allocated. So as you recall, we are obligated close to $3.8 million, 3.54. And so the city has used some of that money. We've been kind of sitting on some of it because we've been able to draw interest in the local government investment pool, and that's been very successful for us. But we do have until December of 2024 to obligate these funds, and then December of 2024, and then December of 2026 to spend it. So we are currently sitting on less obligations, about 1.486 left. We did spend some money in the beginning on premium pay, about $40,000. Then you see our drainage from FEMA study for grant matches, about $9,000, $25,000 for generators, and then also for South Park CBBG project, which is Community Development Block Grant.
And it's finally over?
It is finally over. The wastewater is running.
Yeah.
And that has been very exciting to get that project done and installed due to COVID and many other issues. And then, of course, we have the citywide security camera upgrades, which you guys approved, which is about $5,000. We are seeing some cost increase with that. We've had to do some unknown, of course, there's any contingency issues with the power having to run different meters on every location. So we will be coming back to you guys with some potential increases for that. But still, we're around the $5,000 mark. And then the most recent one was a SKIP grant match, and that was about $1.2 million of the match. So again, we have about 1.486 that is unobligated. This money does need to be obligated by 2024. So we are going to have a need for a meeting to discuss where we want to put this money, what we want to put it towards. You do have opportunities to spend it on issues, for instance, such as what we just talked about with the house home situation and other things that are coming up. So it's something, if you guys have any questions about it, but that's where we are right now. I want you guys to get an update on that.
Awesome.
Okay. All right, next is short-term rentals. Sure, just
something else that we talked about in a meeting that could be a potential use for ARPA funds? Can y'all help me? I'm trying to think of something here, just kind of vaguely earmarked and said, you know, we could use this for ARPA.
I think, was that for the Sixth Street project? We'd had some grant matches money if we needed it, about $1 million for the Sixth Street project, but I'm not sure exactly. But if we could do some research in the minutes if you like.
Thank you.
If you have any questions about a project that may or may not be eligible, please let me know, and we'll go through that, but we do need to start thinking about that. I plan to have a full workshop on it as we get up, and especially with the new council coming up and whatnot, we need to talk about it. Okay?
That's been so broadly written now, we have lots more uses than we ever thought we did when it first came out.
When it first came out, there were very strict rules about what you could do with it. Pretty much premium payments and grant matches were all, and some grant matches were only allowed, and that's why you see that first kind of expenditure of about, I think it was close to about, $550,000. We spent that immediately. Then as it loosened, is what happened. The state loosened and relaxed some of the rules and requirements. We were able to spend it more. At this point, we can pretty much spend on anything that's going to invest in and benefit the city. It is largely targeted infrastructure, but there are options we can look at. Okay. Our next is short-term rentals. This has been something that I wanted to have a more in-depth conversation with you guys about. Planning Commission, I just have to put my hats off to them. They've had a wonderful, they've really dissected this thing. They have been very involved in this since the beginning. This was requested by a council member to bring to the Planning Commission to talk about short-term rentals because there is a push at the state level for some restrictions and some regulations going in place city or statewide. A lot of cities are fighting it, and it's kind of up to you guys if you want to get into the notion of putting something ahead of before they're restricted. Do you want to get in there and be grandfathered? I think the ultimate goal, of course, is to look at a couple of things, make sure they're paying their fair share if they have to, and also from the safety aspect. And that was largely what the conversation revolved around with our Planning Commission. It did pass with the recommendation, but there are some concerns. And basically at this point, I did have a chance to speak with the mayor and also with Councilman Andrews about it. I decided to pull it off the agenda for a vote because I want the chance to really flush out and dissect a little more and see if there's something that we can do that works for Hartsville. Not just, because we've taken models from other cities. Municipal Association of Passion has a model that's a little too overbearing in my opinion, and that's no offense to Municipal Association. And then other cities have one as well. But really we need to figure out what is the problem, what is the current issue in Hartsville, what can we do to help mitigate some of the issues we currently have, including long-term rentals, making sure compliance is always taken care of, and then also from the standpoint, not forcing too much government down and requiring people to really kind of go into homes and enforce permitting compliance that way. I think there's a compromise we can come up with. I just need some more time to figure that out and get some more feedback from, again, our businesses and citizens. But I wanted to get your opinion on it. We really haven't had a chance to talk about it kind of in a dialogue. So if anyone has any questions or comments now, it'd be very helpful.
A few comments. I did a Google search to see how many communities, municipalities in South Carolina have actually put something in place. It was 20 or 21, so it hasn't been great so far.
Right.
Legislature, of course, is out until the second week of January, so I think that urgency, while urgent, we still have time to examine it. Planning Commission, as you said, I've talked to several of those, they still have lots of discussion to have on that, so maybe, I saw an email Sunday before last from the chairman of the Planning Commission, said possibly we get together on this, or maybe we get together on that, figure something out, maybe it's not just bluff and bluff, this is something that really helps us.
I agree. I mean, it's the comments from, and I'm going to provide you guys, we did a summary of the comments from the Planning Commission that we'll be providing you guys. It's not 3 or 4 pages, it's just general comments in no real particular order. But the overall concerns are, of course, what are we trying to do? What are we trying to accomplish? A number of questions is, of course, how can we enforce it? And from the staffing perspective, we have to determine, do we need additional staff to be in there looking at these houses? Does it require inspections? For people to go into those things, how is it going to be managed? So there's several things that are coming up. A lot of cities are kind of trying to get in front of it and then they'll figure it out as they go. But again, Hartsville, from a short-term residence or rental situation, we don't have that many. I do understand that there is some desire to get this done, again, quickly, and I think, Bobby, you're absolutely correct, that there is the push from the state has kind of happened, but they're in one more year to get it forward on that thing, so.
And from my perspective, anytime the state legislature starts looking at something, cities and counties need to, look and see if we can get something on the books. Way back in the '70s, I think the state legislature passed something called the Home Rule Act. And ever since they did that, they've been taking back the things that municipalities and counties have control over. So, getting something on the books, I think is very important before they come back. I think also, just from my perspective, I think if your neighbor has an Airbnb, you need to know. And you and the neighbors, maybe on either side or across the street, also need to know. Because in some cases, Airbnbs work great 90% of the time. About 10% when you have a problem, do you want that next door to you in your own neighborhood? And so that's something that I like in the law ordinance that we looked at, was kind of a sign off from neighbors. If you're gonna have an Airbnb, everybody on each side of you need to approve that. If not,
Did it say approve or just be made aware?
Made aware.
Made aware, but if there's no opposition, that peer pressure will certainly, may sway things there. I look at the Airbnbs kind of like food trucks. They're competing against the brick and mortar restaurants we have. Airbnbs are competing against the brick and mortar hotels we have. So whatever the threshold is 3 or more, whatever, I think a business license needs to be put in there. And I also think that, accommodations tax needs to be paid. Safety is an issue, with any time you have lodging. And that's probably the biggest opposition we get, is what's reasonable to make sure that a place where people stay is safe.
But then how do you stop people, not digging too deep in the weeds, but how do you stop people from just renting a room in their house?
Well,
Without.
You can, and there will be a threshold, I think, on some of this, it's 3 or more, whatever.
That's where the conversations got started though, because people are just gonna come offline.
Yeah. Well,
You still got Facebook, you still got X, you still have those types of media outlets. People can just literally come off those websites.
Yeah.
And that's where the conversations got to go.
well, if it's a person renting out a room off of Airbnb, or not on Airbnb, they probably wouldn't meet the threshold
So
of having a business of 3 or more.
I agree with what if everybody, that's the conversation that I worry about, because it's already happening at the beach. People are just
I'm very aware of that.
moving off of the internet. You pick up the phone, you can call a local, property management.
That's gonna happen with everything, because every business in Hartsville have a license.
So that's when we have
Probably
to,
not.
that's when we gotta have a conversation of getting more in the weeds of it.
Yeah.
Personally.
Just like John, you're speaking about the Airbnb and the neighbor across the street and the neighbors beside need to know, well, that's Airbnb, but we have that already with our rental property. We don't have a clue who it is, where it comes, so that's some information that we don't have, but we want to be able to regulate it as best we can, so it will work for the safety of all the neighbors and for the entire city.
Yeah, and we all agree we've had problems with some long-term rentals with the renters and things like that. And then exacerbate that with a short-term rental, which you may have, 10 different clients in a month. So it could be a problem. I would love to get something on the books before the legislature tells us what we've got to do. And we can tweak it there, we can be grandfathered in, I think that's always a good policy. Moving forward, as when the legislature starts paying attention to something, we need to be looking, you know, what can we do to get something on the books, and we can be grandfathered in, maybe under more favorable conditions for the citizens of Hartsville.
What I was gonna say a while ago is I see no bill pending in the legislature for this, so they'd have to start from scratch this January. I'm guessing they would have line with discussions too, so I don't see it coming. The train's not even out of the station yet. I guess they've got time. There's never been wrong getting ready, though, but there's nothing pending from the state that I think.
That's a great conversation.
Well, what I'm gonna do then is I'm gonna spend some time going through the current ordinance. I do agree, we need to really look at it from a, Hartsville, perspective. I will then need, if we're gonna make any substantial changes, I will bring it back to planning commission as we're going through the zoning zone. So if you'd like me to continue to just kind of keep kicking at it or kicking around it with it in planning commission, but what I am recommending doing is doing something to try and hit all the things that you guys are potentially do want to look at, but also make it palatable for the residents. I don't want to get into a situation where we are doing something that is not desired and create a situation, but I understand. We are gonna talk a little bit later on about something that was pushed down from the state, which is business licenses, which now the city has no control over with standardization across the state. And it took, almost mountainous amount of effort to get it, people were favorable, they almost completely crippled cities in their ability to regular make money for themselves, to be able to do things, because, almost 40% of our entire budget is business licenses, and without it, we would not be able to provide police and fire services to the citizens. So, I understand where you're coming from. I love government, that's why I work in it, so here I am. But I will work on it still, okay? Speaking of more fun things, building incentives, this does go along with what we're talking about with permitting. We do recognize that, we need to make some improvements to what we're talking about with our permitting process, and also making sure that we are doing, the right things and making sure that we're making it appealable to different things. So what I'm looking at right now with our staff is potentially looking at, I'm calling them incentives, but really it's, looking at our current fee structure for permitting. Looking at our process, making sure that we are doing something that makes sense in this area, across, compared to the national average. Commercial side is a little bit of a different animal. It really is kind of submitted what they submit to us. We wanna make sure we're getting a minimum here, and make sure that we have enough to be, for the building official, our building department, we're looking at that thing, something that can sustain the department, but not also try to break the bank. We're here to try and be, the word is revenue neutral. That's what we're trying to go towards. And so, I am looking at that currently. But really, the residential program is what I'm looking at, most, kind of intimately. Desire is to start where I think we have a bottleneck, which is with housing. And make sure that our people come and say you're getting a fair, permitting process, a fair permit cost. That's not too overly burdensome for them, because that does get ultimately passed on to the taxpayers. And so, I want to see if you guys have any thoughts or opinions on it, any desires, yays, nays, that type of thing, and then go from there.
I do think we need to be competitive. I always hear where the parks is a little high,
Yeah.
and I don't know how they are, you know, everybody else in PD. I understand the concept of revenue neutral, so if you cut these fees, where would the increase come?
Exactly, that's what we have to make sure we're not, it's essentially it's using the International Code Council that we use for the intellectual property maintenance codes, for building valuation data, BED. And we would make sure that our permitting cost is in line using a already established formula that every other city is using. And so the main thing here is, of course, to just be completely open and consistent with what we're doing. I wanna make sure that if you were to plug in your exact numbers, you get the same thing as us, and there's no question about it. That's the goal I wanna have ultimately overall. And so with the revenue neutral, all that is that the building department can sustain itself with inspections what it needs to do, because we do have to have a building official come out to make sure the building's done safe. I'm not gonna accuse any construction person or contractor at all of trying to skip corners, but sometimes it happens, not here, of course. And so what I'm trying to do is make sure that everything's built safely. Because ultimately a resident's gonna live in that house, and ultimately a resident's gonna have to deal with anything that happens if we don't do our job and get in there to make sure it's safe. So all this is paying for that. And so at the end of the day, we need to make sure that we're still working with our businesses, working with our you know, the people who are making things happen for us, which is building houses, making sure that is, we're being, you know, pro-business, pro-growth, and also pro-city. So it's a fine line we have to walk, but at the end of the day, I wanna make sure that we're just being competitive. I don't wanna be the most expensive, I don't wanna be the cheapest, because that's a bad place to be in the world.
Seems like you got, almost have a spreadsheet, plug in square foot.
And that's exactly, and that's exactly what we wanna make sure, you know, checklist is a very big important thing, I wanna make sure we get some of that done, so that it can happen to people.
And, I want to, be sure that we look at, for instance, the Habitat housing, because we waive fees for them,
Yep.
but we have no idea what they're doing. And it still is not right for the homes to be built in the South Hartsville, or historic development district on a concrete slab, and it's low lying, and not other places. So, we need to bring them in and make sure, I don't know if we need to, you know, they need to let us know every property, but we're just raising those fees and not knowing what they're doing.
So city council at one point, and this is a finding that you guys have before, you did decide to waive those because they do make it up in the end, and this is for affordable housing for residents. This was several years ago, that this was put in place. I think that the ultimate goal of those courses, I think there are applications that do a pad, does happen, there being homes being built pads, just make sure it's not below, you know, floodplains. And make sure those things, and that's the point, make sure those things are done appropriately. Because I think that you can point to several examples that you already have them in your head of where it was built. And so we wanna make sure that we're, being consistent there. I'm not sure the last time they had a Habitat house built.
There's two going up on Promise Acres
Right.
now.
Yeah, but two went up in August, and then what, the last?
And anytime those, we would be aware of those coming through with CO, we have to issue a CO, of course.
And here's the ones on Robinson, on Slab, the ones in Promise Acres, on Foundation, the
Right.
ones out Washington Street.
Well, I think the point is that for Habitat, it's not really a cost prohibitive thing to build it on a foundation. It needs to be appropriate for the location. Because right now, there's homes being built out on Bay Road that are all slab.
Yeah.
So I think it's just appropriateness.
Anybody else windows crack outside?
It's raining.
Yeah, make it less. You got to clean up a little bit.
If he's off this much, if you wanna run out there and close the windows, it might be the time to do it.
We are in.
Daniel, on the current, we've got a couple of areas that are building homes, and I was contacted. Our current formula includes land.
It does. Well, the current formula, and that was I'm familiar with the person asking for that, so the building construction permit, it has nothing to do with the land. Because that's where we're only calculating based on the building itself. The land appraisal value has no plan, no other city calculates in, or take deducts anything from land. Because land value, you can sell for $5, $100,000. I understand where they're coming from with it. I think if we did something along this, it would help with that. Because what they're asking for is just not something for a permitting fee that's standard across any, practicing city across this area.
So if I understand you correctly, $155 house on a $30,000 lot, they're not paying a permit for $1.80.
No, they're not, it's not based at all on the land value. It's only based on square footage, and we only actually charge for heated square footage as opposed to unheated. And so it's only for the construction value of the home. But that's exactly my point, is that I wanna make sure that we are applying fairly and consistently for what it costs here in Hartsville to build, not just what it costs maybe in this region, what it costs across the United States. The ultimate thing here is that particular builder, they're not really comparing apples to apples here, it's kind of apples and oranges. What we're talking about here is construction costs for the building, not for the land itself. So it's not being charged $180,000, we charge $150,000. That's what it is currently.
Well, if that's the case, in the cities that I talked to, they presented an executed contract, and that would be a perfect way to figure the formula out.
Sure.
Because of course it depends on location, it depends on the contractor that you secure as well. So I mean, you're gonna see it in black and white, what they're gonna charge per square foot, so that ought to comply to what we need.
It should, the basic here is we wanna make sure they're accepting the minimum. So if they say it costs over $100,000 to build a house, but in actuality, the cost is closer to $200,000, then we are already operating at a loss. And so from the city's perspective, we can decide if we wanna do that, we can make that decision, and council, of course, can talk about it. But we have to make sure we're getting those, what those are called, the minimum numbers. So if, as long as we're all on that same page with the minimum numbers, I want that to be what we're talking about, not what they submit.
Well, if they have a contract and they sign it or got to comply.
Sure.
If they do something different, then they're in violation, and then we can do something about it.
Well, we only get what they submit to us as far as the.
I understand.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, that way you don't have to worry about word of mouth, you got
Sure.
paper trail.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
This suggestion, and when he talked about, revenue neutral earlier, when we started talking about this, there are a few things I liked about the idea, and one was that it was very clear. I like when we can have a set way to do something, it's not picking and choosing to feel like there's fluctuation. This is set by, each year, or every 6 months.
Every 6 months.
It's updated to best reflect what is the true cost in our area, which I really appreciate about it. When we talked about revenue neutral, it was, I think, 15% or so lower, I believe, it was
Yes.
like 0.85. And when I looked at what we have in our revenue line for that, it wasn't a substantial amount where I was like, there's no way we can put this in.
Absorb this cost.
And one thing we talked about as well is that say we have a major project come on board, right, we have a one-off permit for that year, which we usually do see 1 or 2 a year, those aren't included in our budget, right? So when we do our budgets each year, we've done pretty well on our permits, because we stick to like the normal, but those years, we kind of look at the average over the years, it does kind of creep up. I feel like we have enough offsets and these new permits that have been coming in, and we can continue to see an increase, that in our next year's budget, we reflect this one. I think in this year, if I wanted to go ahead and do this, which I do like the idea, I do think it would be really helpful to our contractors and to incentivize them to build here. For that, I think our budget would be able to withstand that decrease this year.
And I would look at,
We could adjust that.
and I would look at applying this from what we're talking about from the fiscal year,
Yeah.
so I would go back to July 1. So homes that have already been built that we've been starting the conversation about. And just to be fair, when I ran the numbers to look at the land cost that I made a deduction, it was relatively comparable to what we're talking about here. So I think we're achieving the same goal that they wanna do, but just from a more consistent manner. So we don't have to worry about anyone who sells their house for $5 because they be working in if someone traded property for $5, their permit would be higher than somebody who pays more for the property. That's why those, land value doesn't go to any of the construction permit costs, cause it's so subjective. This takes subjectivity out of it, and that's what I really wanna do. But I do hear, I mean, if they submit a contract to us, they operate another contract for us, especially commercial, then we will take what the contractor says they're gonna do for it. And we'll calculate the fee based on that. That's what happens with most of our commercial projects.
Well, if some of the contractors are finishing a project and wanna do more, we
Yeah.
don't wanna do anything to discourage them from building another 38 homes in another area of town. So we need to put this on the fast track, so we get the word out, to let them know that we're in their corner, because growth is where it's at.
Agreed. Yeah.
And if they're on the tax book, that's where it's at.
Sure. No, agreed, absolutely.
Okay.
And this, if that goes the way I'm thinking, and if this is something that you guys are amenable to doing, I'm not even sure, we might be with our current adopted ordinances, we might need to get a vote on you guys that we can go ahead and put in place, and I can start applying this immediately. So that's what I wanted to start looking at now. I am having, our building official run what the, kind of the average permitting cost would be. It's gonna end up with some sort of, cost modifier that will be applied to us, I believe. And I'll get you guys those numbers, and we'll see what the impact to the budget is and what we can absorb and take care of. But in my opinion, I think we'll be able to do this relatively quickly, and then make sure they do agree with us that we need to be on their side here. I think because this is building more homes for
Didn't we
residents.
used to have a building inspector in-house?
We had a building inspector in-house, and, we went to a contracted services. Building officials it's becoming very difficult to find what you can meet all four, because they have to pass all 4 criteria tests. I think it's plumbing, electrical, and God, what else they didn't get. And so, when we had a building official in-house, and I think a couple of you were still on council when we had it, or were on council, the number of complaints we have, a building official is not your friend. I'll be honest. They're gonna ruin your day potentially, because they're gonna make sure the safety.
Kind of like an auditor.
There you go. And that's absolutely correct. And, so we've been working with the company Safeville for right now. I have seen a need to potentially increase the number of times. They come twice a week right now. They are on call, they can come different days if they need to be inspected. And we actually have been able to do that. When these homes are trying to close on a Friday, we'll get them in there to make sure they do inspection and get that all taken care of. As long as the contractor is, of course, keeping up with their information to us, because we know their information too. It is a two-way street here. There's a lot here that's being said that from the contractor's perspective, and I'll be honest, there's quite a bit more to it than just that conversation.
I'm sure.
And so, we do try to work with them as best we can, but we are not going to bend the rules or the law for anybody. So, I mean, that's the ultimate goal. And so I do like having a third-party building official, too, that is separate from all this kind of in-house things, because they're gonna apply the law consistently. Now, they will work with the compromise that we want to increase the number of times they're here, things like that. But a building official, we pay about $50,000 or $60,000 a year for a building official contract. To bring one on board, you're looking at close to $120,000 in commitment. And so it is, and that whole cost is gonna go up. And it's just something that a building official, it is more and more difficult to, this is the way these things are going. Same that happened with our wastewater technicians. No one works for cities anymore, they're all being pulled to work for private companies because they make more. So this is the reality we're facing in most city government with a lot of different positions that are happening. So if that is something that the city council really wants to bring a person back in-house, there's merit to discussing it. There absolutely is, but I think there are it's a serious potential with that.
Because there will be revenue coming our way instead of state bill getting.
Well, exactly, and I mean, I think.
It's not just a strict 120 out of pocket that we're gonna be a $120 loser.
Well, I mean, you know, Safefield is still bringing, there are still things coming in.
Right.
So that is.
We still charge everyone for that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not that, Safefield's getting that money, they get the money from us, not from the builders.
Yeah.
And so, I think that it's, like I said, it's, for instance, if you guys recall, the last time you guys had a building official that you were posting for, I actually hired him to Goose Creek out from underneath you. So, it happens, they're very competitive across the state. And, it's difficult to find them, there's less and less every year that can meet all four criteria, because you can make a lot more money just as a plumber or electrician. So, it's just a reality we have to look at, but there's other companies other than Safefield too.
I don't think there's any
Sure.
fault with that. They were just saying, like you said, Tuesdays and Thursdays. If they were to happen not to do so well on inspection on Thursday, they can't do anything till the following Tuesday, they're like 2 days from losing a week.
Well, and that was something that we read about, and
Yeah.
that has changed. So if they have a Tuesday, Thursday, they're expected on Thursday, and they wanna come back on Friday, we will be there.
So you can make that happen.
Absolutely, we already have that, and so that's where I think it's a little confusing,
And I
frustrating.
appreciate that.
Absolutely.
We want to be part of the solution, not part
Yeah,
of.
I'm not gonna hold it, if there's time's money, and I'm
Well,
not
they
gonna hold
even
it.
offered to pay for it, they told me, they said if they have to come back on Friday, we'll pay for it.
I think that, the complaints are from about a year and a half, 2 years ago, when that wasn't happening, and now we are making sure that we will be there if they
Cool.
can. Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Bring us home so we can get the business section.
I told you it's just 2 meetings, right? That's what, I did mention it. So I'll be quick on the last one. So we've had 2 requests, these are things that are in the planning commission, but I wanted to bring them to you guys because it's going to affect your constituents. So we've had a request for both electronic reader signs, so it's a very old-fashioned term, but it's just the LCD screens or LED screens that are out right now. And our commercial properties and also a church have requested it. We also at the same time have had requests for inlit signs. These are just signs, think about a cabinet box with lights inside of it that's gonna illuminate, and then the contrast will show the signage for the name of the business. These are only allowed in certain zoning districts. We primarily only allow them into our B3 district. There are some that are grandfathered into the B2. And B3 is gonna be your 4th Street corridor, 5th Street corridor, B2, and I think actually B2 is some of the 5th Street as well. And then some of 6th Street, and then you start getting into your residential zones. And we do have quite a mix, I mean, down in West Carolina, I mean, we're getting into some residential mixed use there down as well. So right now, those signs are prohibited in those areas. The ultimate goal, even though I know the city hasn't anything with Las Vegas, the goal is to not look like Las Vegas, and have those things illuminated. And that eventually, it used to be those ticker board signs that had the scrolling text when this first was written. Now it's gotten into the LED signs.
Televisions.
Television, exactly, and there are strict regulations by, SCDOT about how many images can be displayed, how long can display, the lumens, all those things. It's just up to you guys if you want to start allowing them outside of those districts. We do have 3 pending requests for it. Planning Commission has taken, they're being very good about looking through these things, so they're dissecting it, and they want to know some more data, so we have had, we're bringing it back to them this month. But the ultimate goal is that we have 3 pending businesses, a church, a, business, fast food restaurant, and then also a funeral home who wants something. So I think we're gonna need some direction and some indication if you guys are kind of not to have a vote, but, that's what I want to give you guys a heads up, that's what's happening, right now, and, I think that it'd be helpful to know kind of some thoughts on it.
I don't wanna circumvent the process, I'm just sitting to go back to the planning commission, where they've already started on that, but then vetted some more, come to us with recommendations, so it's interceding down, making some decisions, it's just. And I would hope that people who are applying would understand that it's a process, because once you open that door, it's wide open.
But we've got to be mindful as well, from the outside looking in. A new business that comes on the block, walks out of their front door, and says, well, hey, my competitor has that kind of sign. And you can look off their porch and see it. There's that conversation of, why can't I have the same thing? So, though they don't understand that there's a broad spectrum, we need to be mindful of that, because they deserve the same right to market as well.
So they deserve the same right to market if they're in the same zoning district.
When you get a conversation about zoning, we have to remember that my interest here for the Eastern Butler District is not to connect it to downtown. It's not to decommercialize, but to re-commercialize that district. There were commercial buildings down there. There was business down there. We need to have a serious conversation that they have the same opportunity as others. That's all that I'm really concerned about with that. Because a lot of the zoning that's on the books, as we look at history, the city was not even annexed where this current business is. It was not annexed in at that time. So let's just be mindful of those conversations. Let's be considerate
Are
of
they
those things.
part of A2 rights down there?
They're
Currently in our R2, what is that there?
Yes.
It's in the
R2
residential.
And with an R2, you know, it's different than a business district, you have residences right there, and, you know, one of the things we talked about, I think we also have, campus, digital signs, like, the middle school, they have a digital scrolling sign there.
the Darling County Community Action Agency.
You know, and if you've got residences there, it's a different thing, it's flashing all lights in your window, whatever. And then, my understanding is there may be churches nearby some of these, and if you've got a bright digital sign right next to a church, you know, that's, in my mind, an issue. And just for trivia's sake, anybody know how many billboards there are in Hartsville?
One.
One.
So no
There's
problem.
one. And whether that's progress or not, it's on North District, very small. Again, grandfathering in, back in the day, prohibited billboards. You know, you may say that's good, you may say it's bad, I think it's good. Because I think there's a proliferation of billboards on interstates and everywhere else. Same thing with signage. You know, in my opinion, a business is gonna make it or not make it regardless of the sign. You know, it's the service you give, it's the price you give, that's what's gonna make your business successful, not a flashy sign. And that's just my bias and my opinion.
Out of sight is still out of mind. That's been the conversation, gonna be the conversation, and will be. So when you look at it, the people making the complaint is, if I'm out of sight, I'm out of mind. That's still a conversation in business with marketing.
You can have a sign, an appropriate sign.
Let's go plan recognition can handle those conversations in approximately.
Indeed.
And attend those on the next September.
Yeah. in agreement with, Mr. McGee here. I found it kinda interesting. About a month ago, I went out to some signs place, and we talked about LED lights. You know, all good ain't gold. So, before any business decide to do this, you better look into the cost of this, using these electronic lights and LEDs, maintenance. You better do your homework first. So, I kinda agree with Bobby. Let's take it back to the planning commission, let them do a study, then we can discuss it. But we can go in circles all day here. You know?
On that note, we ready to move on to the business portion? I don't wanna step on anybody's toes, but I'm getting hungry. All right. Please on by the consent agenda for the departmental reports, all, those representing the city's departments, thank you for the work you put in the reports. Reports for us, moving on to item 6, ordinance 4457, Mr. Manager, if you would publish it by title for the record.
Yes, sir, it's a public hearing and final reading. Ordinance 4457 provide for the establishment and amendment of fees and rates that are necessary for the operation of the city of Hartsville.
All right, this is, largely a cleaning up the ordinances to make sure that everything's in one place to make it easier for us to manage and make changes on the timely manner. It also gets us to a competitive level where we need to be for some fees, if I remember correctly.
This is an update of our master fee schedule. We do this annually to make sure it's a some fees update, water rates, those things.
All right.
There's a water rate?
Take
So ignore that.
Yeah.
It's just, it's the associated fees, it's not the
There you
water
go.
rates.
That was already done.
Jeez.
That's
All
why-
right, well, I'll open the public hearing. Public hearing, I'll open if you'd like to comment on ordinance 4457, please step forward, state your name and address of record, keep your comments to 2 minutes or less. Nobody jumping up on that, so I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Public hearing is now closed. All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, do I have a motion? For the final reading of ordinance 4457.
Mr. Mayor, I so move that we approve ordinance 4457.
Thank you. Got a motion in a couple seconds. All those in favor? Any opposed? Ayes have it. Remind me not to eat a piece of candy before I start. Anyway.
Spit it out.
Number 7, 4458, Mr. Manager.
It is public hearing and final reading of ordinance 4458 to amend Hartsville Code of Ordinances, Chapter 78, Traffic and Vehicles, Article 5, Stopping, Standing, and Parking, Section 78-352, fines in Section 78-356, prohibited by yellow curb.
All right, thank you very much. This is the cleaning up the structure of the ordinances and the language, that'll make us better able to manage this going forward in a timely manner. I would hear a motion to approve the final, no, I need to do a public hearing, sorry, yes. All right, I'll open up the public hearing for ordinance 4458. If anyone would like to comment on this, please come forward, state your name and address for the record, keep your comments to 2 minutes or less. Hearing none, public hearing is now closed. I would entertain a motion to approve the final reading of ordinance 4458.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this? I forgot discussion on this stuff. Everybody good? All right. All those in favor of approving the final reading of ordinance 4458, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Ordinance 4458 is approved. All right. Resolution 09-2301, Mr. Manager, if you would publish it by title for the record.
Yes, sir, it's to authorize a lease purchase financing in the amount of not exceeding $2,255,000 and other matters related thereto.
All right, and this is more of a technicality to go ahead and move forward with some projects that were already approved in the budget, is that right? Yep, remembering that correctly. All right, I would entertain a motion to, approve resolution 09-2301.
Make a motion to approve resolution 09-2301.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, any discussion on this?
I've had more than discussion, again, it's all budgeted items, it's good things, it's the fire truck, it's police, it's garbage, and it's just the things that run the city, and we approved it in the budget, anyway, it is.
There's a lot of old stuff in there, yeah, the fire truck being one of the big boys, but, anything else? All right, all those in favor of approving resolution 09-2301, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, resolution is approved. Moving on to item 9, Mr. Manager.
Yes, sir, it's resolution 09-2302, approval for the Hartsville Police Department to enter into a mutual aid agreement with the Darlington County Sheriff's Office.
Right, and this, of course, is actually a renewal of an existing agreement, and, to make sure that our police department can work, together, and also assist the sheriff's office. I would entertain a motion to approve resolution 09-2302.
It is so moved.
I have a motion and a second, any discussion on this?
We do have a sheriff with us tonight.
Yes, sir, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Mr. Sheriff, appreciate you coming. Anything else? I'll go ahead and move on with the vote. All those in favor of approving resolution 09-2302, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Resolution approved. Moving on to item 10, 2303, Mr. Manager.
Yes, sir, it's resolution 09-2303 to approval to apply for Municipal Association of South Carolina MASC Hometown Economic Development Grant.
All right. I tend to think that getting money from grants is a good thing. Speak up.
Yeah,
Okay. Yes. I would entertain a motion to approve resolution 09-2303.
It is so moved.
A motion and second, any discussion, questions on this? All right, all those in favor of approving resolution 09-2303, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Resolution approved. And I will definitely let you read this one, please.
all right, bear with me, everyone. This is first reading of ordinance 4459, an ordinance amending the City of Hartsville Code by amending chapter 54 nuisances by the addition of chapter 4 nuisances, article 6 nuisances affecting public peace by the addition of chapter 54 nuisances, article 7 nuisances affecting public order by amending and restating chapter 58 offenses and miscellaneous provisions, article 2 offenses against property, and by amending chapter 10 building and building regulations, article 2 technical code section 10-38 international property maintenance code, and by amending the City of Hartsville provision to the international property maintenance code and associated master fee schedule section.
Read. Yeah, you wouldn't know without looking at it, but this is actually just part of our effort to become a certified B city. Amending the code to allow for us a natural habitat.
In a bit more, but
In a bit more.
we can talk about it if you like.
Okay, but that was a doozy. I would hear a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 4459.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion on this one?
Just to point out that it's here before us on our screen, that this is a first reading, we will have a public hearing and public input on this October 10th. It is a lot, I mean, I've read the act and read it's a lot of technical stuff, and almost things like the approach of just so you can already put all the stuff together, and it's, so, it didn't necessarily all seem related at one time, but yeah, I'm sure it does, so we hear more about it through the public hearing.
Well, if I may, I can kind of explain. It does all go together. Basically what we're doing is we've been talking about this for quite a while. And what we're trying to do is give our staff the ability to deal with public nuisances. So a lot of these things have been split across different sections, so different chapter 54, chapter 58, so there is a bit of cleanup there, I do agree. But ultimately what we're talking about is nuisance properties throughout the city. So properties that have multiple violations that are going on, multiple criminal activities that we've had to deal with. We have multiple things, and what this does, it gives our police and fire, specifically our police chief and fire chief, to make a recommendation to move in and do something about it. If it's a rental house, potentially shutting down the rental house. If it is a house that has multiple violations for, like I said, criminal activity, we can get in there and remediate those issues. We've done this successfully, but only under threat essentially of law. We did it with a business, we also did it with a private property that was being, things that essentially became unfit for human occupancy, so we were able to do it that way. We were able to do it better from the code's building official side. So this is a lot of technical things, but basically it was taking what we've seen done successfully in other cities, specifically the city of Casey, utilizing their model to give our police and fire the powers they need to mitigate and regulate these properties that are creating issues in our neighborhoods across the city, and giving them powers to be able to do that. B City is also included in it because we are looking at becoming a D City, and part of that is to allow certain areas in the city to be not considered a nuisance by allowing to be a D sanctuary. So nuisances is a broad word, but all these things relate to property maintenance across it and also some criminal activity. So this is something that I know Ms. Mack has been working on for quite some time. This will, I believe, give us the opportunity to, really get in and make a difference when there's a house next to you that may not be up to stuff in the neighborhood, may be causing some issues, and working with them and giving us the tools to work with them to finish it. It is largely through our codes, police, and fire situations, so this is really combining a lot of things together to give us the tools to do it and really make a difference. So it's a lot, it is a lot.
And part of the message of it was that it looked like maybe we had all these things, but they were sitting in other codes, so we're striking it from over here to there.
No, there were some sections that we did have different sections, but no, this is a brand new, specifically the police and fire powers to regulate a nuisance property. The notions about public peace is brand new to the ordinance, and what's defined in there is brand new. I mean, these things are against the law that's set up, but they're not set up from a, kind of dealing with it from a codes issue across the board.
Yeah, but the
B City, we've done all these things. We've taken care of properties that were.
We have not as cleanly as I would like, yeah, as best we could, exactly.
Not the way that we need.
As best we could, yeah.
Some of them were not security. I just wanna bring that
We're in
forward.
discussion.
Some of them were addressed, you know, for years and years and years. This gives us the ability to make it safe for the citizens of Hartsville in everywhere. Not one specific one, but in all areas.
Sure.
When you look at that standpoint, that's what it is. We have to combine all of that together in one place so that it can work effectively.
And just briefly, with the B City part of this, any vacant lot, so to speak, is it required to have certain, types of vegetation that is posted that this is part of the B City program?
Yeah, so if we have any properties, and as we go through a public hearing, once this becomes enforced, if it does pass, of course, then there are certain guidelines that have to meet criteria, and it will be inspected by our city designee to come out there and take a look at it. We are encouraging, of course, wild, natural species, or native species, they're all natural, I assume, but native species, to this area. It does have to have some maintenance assigned to it, but it's allowing some flexibility. The ultimate goal of that is, of course, to create, in some of our neighborhoods, we have properties that we are mowing and maintaining, but if we can put, and also designate signage. like I mentioned,
Yeah,
too.
and there'd be a buffer between.
There'd be a buffer between the
and
street
where
and
that
houses.
park's not.
It is a maintained, there's a process to do it, but the ultimate goal is to give some, RVs a place to call. And so we're very excited about that. Upon approval, Mr. McGee.
Okay, that was discussion. All those, we'll go ahead and take a vote. So all those in favor of approving the first reading of ordinance 4459, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. First reading passes. That brings us to item 12, the first reading of ordinance 4460. Mr. Manager, if you would publish it by title and presentation.
Yes, sir, it's to amend the city of Hartsville's official zoning map by rezoning two properties on Sunoco Road identified at tax map number 05511011087 and 05515011094 from residential R1 to industrial M2.
And these lots do not have houses on them, they're just directly beside machinery manufacturing. Machinery manufacturing, for anyone who's familiar with that being at Sunoco Road.
So what is it, it started going up the hill?
You can entertain a motion and then we'll get into
So
discussion.
if you're going to.
Mayor, let's do a motion.
Okay, yeah. I would entertain a motion to approve the first reading. Motion and second for discussion, yes. So if you're coming from Sunoco's campus, past the lake of Fifth Street, you pass machinery manufacturing on the left as it turns to the left, and it's the two lots. And they're in that corner where the railroad tracks are. And the engineering building's across the street.
So R1, Sunoco and, it does abut to R1 already, so this is not a, really, they're extending over, they are extending the machine manufacturing facility that is in the city limits, that's primarily, I believe, for making machinery for Sunoco.
It's internal.
So it's not sales building, but they're looking at expanding that, and they're gonna need some truck access. We've already met with Sunoco, staff, and it's already a wooded lot, the two lots we're talking about, so we, enforced a strict buffer requirement to make sure that it is not gonna have any impact on the residences. Largely, all they will have is a road that's gonna be to the far northeast portion of it, so we felt comfortable moving forward with it.
Because there are houses behind there.
There are houses right now, Kenwood Avenue is right there, and they've met with the owner of the property that abuts, they're doing everything right.
Cool. All right, any other questions on this? If not, hearing none, I would entertain we've already done that. All those in favor of approving ordinance 4460, I'm getting hungry, please indicate so by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, first reading of ordinance 4460 passes. Moving on to 4461. Mr. Manager, if you would publish it by title and presentation.
Yes, sir, it's amending the business license ordinance of the city of Hartsville, South Carolina, updating the class schedule as required by Acts 176 of 2020.
As required by the act. Any other comment on that?
Mayor, make a motion to approve ordinance 4461.
Second. Have a motion second. Any questions or comments from council? Hearing none, let's take a vote. All those in favor of approving the first reading of ordinance 4461, please indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. First reading approved. Moving on to 14. First reading of ordinance 4462. Mr. Manager, if you would please publish the ordinance by title and presentation.
Yes, sir, it's to approve leasing of the property on the corner of Marlborough Avenue and 7th Street to the Hartsville Rescue Squad.
Okay, their current location.
Current location, yeah.
I will hear a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 4462.
Second.
Any discussion of this?
We said, the manager, you said in your comments, we kind of let this one slip up, what we talked about. Instead of keeping this going every year, just do a sale or do something.
That's the next one.
Sorry.
No, you're fine, but to your point, this does come up every year. This does come up every year. And so, we have conversations with the fire chief every year about the property. And so, this year, it's so different. We will probably have another conversation before the second read. But, right now, we are recommending going forward with it.
Any other, questions or comments? Not, all those in favor of approving the first reading of ordinance 4462, please indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. First reading is approved. Moving on to item 15, ordinance 4463.
It is to lease a portion of tax map number 056060287 located at 114 South 4th Street to Brandy Stone.
I would entertain a motion, to approve first reading of ordinance 4463.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any, questions about this? Mr. McGee, comments?
No, that was just the one, that
Okay.
this little strip of land, we talked about maybe the possibility of just getting together, creating some price and selling that off instead of redoing.
Yeah, it's not useful though.
And this just came up again for renewal,
It's
so
the tiniest piece.
our lease, county staff is looking at it. They just noticed that we have a lease coming up, so we went through the motions, but I do agree, we plan to not have this come up again. It's direct access to the property. This is the pastor station, you have access to their, required by law, ADA compliant parking spaces. So there's no value to it for us to keep it separate from the building.
All right. I would entertain a vote to approve the first reading of ordinance 4463. All those in favor, please indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Ordinance passes first reading. Now, I would entertain a motion to enter executive session pursuant to SE Code for section 347812 for discussion of appointment to the Housing Authority of Hartsville Board and for discussion of legal advice involving matters protected by attorney-client privilege relating to pending, threatened, or potential claims, business licenses.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of entering executive session, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Now we stand in executive session. Thank you everyone for being here, for hanging out with us.